Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is the stories we tell and how they impact our lives and our perception and our experience. And it should be an interesting conversation. So before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together, vigorously rub your hands together and feel all those sensations, the friction, the temperature, the pressure, the motion, the tickling and tingling when you stop, and allow all those sensations to bring you present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're talking about the stories we tell to ourselves, about the world, about our experience. We are our primary narrators. Good morning, Jenny. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. And welcome to everybody else who's joining us. We're talking about the stories we tell ourselves and others about ourselves and the world. And this comes up because I was with someone yesterday who I love dearly, and who is so entrenched in a story of victimhood, like really just seeing the negative part of everything. And it's so interesting. It reminds me of the story of the two kids. Each were in a room. One was in a room filled with horse manure, and he had a shovel, and the other was in a room filled with toys. And the kid in the room filled with toys was miserable and having a temper tantrum and crying because the one toy he wanted in the midst of all these toys, the toy that he wanted wasn't there. And the kid in the room with manure and a shovel was digging away and whistling and happy and singing, and somebody asked him, "I'm just really confused. How come you're so happy in this room filled with manure?" And the kid said, "Well, where there's so much horse poop, there's got to be a horse somewhere." So it's interesting, the stories we tell. So Jenny says the stories created our lives and predictions. Yes, absolutely. Our lives, our predictions, and our predicaments, our situations, 100%. And so here's somebody who has all these blessings, like truly, they're going through a rough time, and they have all these blessings. Good morning, Bernadette. Welcome. So good to have you here with us this morning. We're talking about the stories we tell. So they're going through a rough time financially, but they're receiving an incredible amount of help. Jenny says perceptions, exactly. Predictions of our circumstance, perceptions, and predicaments. All of these things occur from our stories. So we could have the same exact circumstances and have radically different stories about those circumstances. And the thing is that when we tell these stories to ourselves, they impact us physically, mentally, emotionally. They impact us on all levels. So when we tell a story that is upsetting, our body responds with upset. We get upset, and we can make ourselves sick, literally, with stories that are actually destructive, not just metaphorically destructive. Bernadette says we tend to tell ourselves stories that are comfortable and familiar. And that's a really interesting conversation there, because yes, we tend to tell ourselves stories that are comfortable and familiar. And many of us have gotten comfortable and familiar with being miserable. Like with stories of victimhood, like that's what was going on with this person. And frankly, they have a cake in each hand, in so many ways. And yet the story is a story of victimhood. Pretty much everything that they every story that they're making up is like the worst possible scenario for them, like, and the thing is that they are comfortable with that. It is familiar. And so that's where they go, is into that victim place. And it's very distressing to watch, because there's not a whole lot of room to be speaking into it, because then there's an attack, because they're so committed to this point of view that is so destructive to them. It's just really sad. And Jenny says, and attracts more of it. Yes, exactly. So this person said, well, people tell me it's my attitude, and I say, no, it's money. Money is what's going to solve everything. Well, the thing is that attitude impacts everything, as well as your ability to attract money, right? So, but no room to be able to say that. So Bernadette says, victimhood only leaves you in the pit of forever going around and never out. Yes. Jenny says, presentation. Yes. You've got all these great P words today: perceptions, predictions, presentation. Wonderful. So it is very much how we present ourselves, how we present our lives, and this thing about being comfortable with negativity. It's a challenging pattern to break out of. It it's so interesting to me to watch people work themselves up into such a state, where things are fine, everything in the moment is fine. And then I've watched people recently just get on a roll and work themselves up into a state by putting their attention and their energy on the worst possible interpretation of circumstances. So I've been facing a circumstance with a friend who has kind of gone dark, and I don't know how to reach them, and I don't know if they're okay. And I have, the last things that they were saying to me were pretty dark. And so I've had to be managing myself around this, and it's not been easy. And I'm trying to not tell myself horrible stories, but in the meantime, it has been a feat to manage myself around this so that I'm not getting crazy. I'm not making myself crazy. So Jenny says, I'm sorry, you said presentation. Bernadette says, Jenny is perfectly proportioned, LOL. So with all these P words today. And Jenny says, perceptions create reality. Well, our interpretations certainly of those perceptions do create our experience of reality 100%. Jenny says, energy vampire. Interesting that you say that, because that's often the effect, is when people are in this. And I have been in dark places, and I'm quite certain I've been guilty of this in my life, that it pulls people around you down as well, right? And it can suck energy right out of the room. And we really need to be deliberate and mindful of how we are generating our experience. And that's exactly what I got to observe with this person, as well as myself, that part of self-care is caring for how we speak to ourselves, is caring for the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves and about the world and about our situation. Truly, I could make up pretty much opposite stories about the same circumstance. And then we get to say, well, what's true? What's true? All of it, none of it? Jenny says, others' emotional dumping drains the emotional buckets of others. Yeah, that, especially, I think that's true. We live in an energetic universe, and these emotions have their energies, have very specific energies, and it can impact others. The way that we feel, the way that we express, the energy we're putting out can absolutely be impacting others. Bernadette says, I surround myself with vampire slayers. I love that. So when I get into sucking the life out of those around, they step in to pull me quickly out of it. Oh, wow, Bernadette, I guess that's a gift, right? That that there are people that keep you in check, and I imagine that you also keep in check. So and what a gift to have people that pull you out of it too, because the energy vampires are also draining themselves of energy. It was so interesting to see this person be in a decent state of mind and then just take themselves into a deep dark state just like that. It's wild to watch that. It's wild to watch how effective we can be at being so destructive to ourselves and potentially those around us. And Jenny says of life too, absolutely. And Bernadette says it's easy at times to go down the rabbit hole. It is. And I think that it can be habitual. It can be a patterned behavior because it is familiar. If we've been in an environment that was abusive and we've been taught how if we've been taught to feel in certain ranges, where if we're put down all the time, if we're brutalized, then even when we're not in that environment anymore, we will tend to do that to ourselves because it's familiar. It was interesting. There were certain patterns of I guess criticism in my family, and when I went away to school, I noticed that there wasn't anybody there to be criticizing me, but I was doing it. I internalized it. And that's what happens for so many of us, is that we're taught kind of how to treat ourselves, and it's not very nice. And then we perpetuate that. And it becomes a familiar and uncomfortably comfortable pattern. And the thing is that we don't even recognize it. We believe that that's the truth, that these stories that we're telling ourselves, and if this person had done that and that person had done this, then my life would be so much better. So I can now blame everybody else for the horrible state I'm in, that I'm not going to be accountable for the decisions that have now been hurtful to me. So it's such a crazy pattern. So Jenny says programmed limited ranges. Exactly. There are ranges of emotion that we get conditioned to, often by being in abusive situations. And maybe some people are fortunate enough to get programmed to happy ranges, like that would be a gift. I don't know too many of those people, if any. But then those ranges tend to be challenging to step outside of, and the way that we would step outside of them would be by deliberate choice, truly choosing and deliberately structuring our our narratives. So Bernadette says, but we also teach those around us how to treat us too. Yes, that's so true, Bernadette. So we're taught how to treat us, and then we teach others how to treat us. And it can be one of those endless loops. And Jenny says, yes, treat others as we were as children. Yeah, that can happen. That we treat others the way we were treated because that's how we were taught. And it takes a willingness to take responsibility, to become conscious of our patterns, and to not just say, well, you know, it's their fault for treating me this way, that I am this way. We get to take responsibility and ownership of of our lives and of our behaviors, of our patterns, of the quality of our conversations that we have with ourselves. Bernadette says, when you know better, you do better, and it's freeing. Yes, exactly. You know, when we play the role of victim, and I'm not saying people don't get victimized. That's a different thing than experiencing being a victim. But when we immerse ourselves in the victim story, and again, I'm not talking about being victimized, because it's a thing. I mean, I'm not denying that people have been made victims. But when we reside in that story, it is a story of blame, and it is a story of not taking responsibility. And again, I'm not talking about people who have been victimized. I'm talking about taking on the story of victimhood in it as a beingness, is a placing blame on others and not being. I love this. Jenny says not being accountable. Exactly. Jenny says people do it without conscious knowing. It's true. It's true. And I think I read this, but I like this, Bernadette. When you know better, you do better, and it's freeing. So as we consciously cultivate awareness and accountability for our stories, and recognizing that the reality that we perceive is not an is. We are affecting that reality as we've designed it. You know, we tell the story about it. We're the ones that are interpreting it. We're the ones that are making meaning about it. And in that making of meaning, we're creating. Oh, Bernadette, thanks for being with us. Have a wonderful day. Take care. And we'll hopefully see you tomorrow. And thank you for engaging in the conversation today. So I think it's important to look at the stories that we tell and to be accountable for them, to craft a story that works for us. And the same circumstances can be made to mean a multitude of things. And so often the meaning that we attribute to things is negative and destructive. And oh, I like that. Jenny says, happy 3/13/23. That's really cool. I love when dates line up in interesting patterns. That's really interesting. I like it. Well, anyway, again, what do we want to make that mean? So the stories we tell, it's important to pay attention to the story you're telling yourself about something, and noticing the impact that story is having. So with that, that's it for today. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And Jenny says my daughter's birthday is 3/31/23. I like 1, 2, 3. I love it when I look at the clock and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 12/34 or 1/23 or yeah. Anyway, 2/34. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for engaging. And I so appreciate your involvement, your conversation, your insights. And until next time, so much love to you.